Welcome to my channel, Purple Mud Productions. I'm Ron Cisneros, Oklahoma actor and filmmaker. Today I'll be speaking with Oklahoma actor Hristo Ivanov, an OFA student and a fellow Actor Factory alumni. I've had the pleasure of working with this talented actor, and you'll enjoy hearing his story. I started this channel to celebrate you, the Oklahoma actor. So enjoy the podcast, and please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you. Hristo, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, I'm happy to be here, Ron.
Good. And thank you for sharing the footage. We got to see some footage of Hristo in one of his roles as a mob boss. So I hope the fans out there enjoy it. But hey, let's just start the conversation by why did you decide to become an actor? What's your motivation?
Oh man, I think the reason why I decided to pursue acting is like my love for movies. I grew up with all the movies from the 80s, from the 90s, like all the superheroes from then. Stallone, favorite shirt.
I see that.
Yeah, Rambo. I grew up with that. Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, like Michael Keaton, Wesley Snipes, all of these big names from the 80s, from the 90s. So growing up watching movies, I always was fascinated by the art, right? I was fascinated by the art, fascinated how everything was put together. And it was like this form of escapism that you kind of as a teenager, I didn't need it so much to escape, but it was more of I was immersing myself into a story, right? And it was believable. And it's oh my God, this is so cool, right? And I would love to be able to do something like that. My perception also for the States and everything that comes out of it, was based on those movies. And everything back then in the 80s and the 90s was big, right? Big action scene, big explosions, big chases, big everything. And that was also another part that made me be fascinated. It's wow, this is it's amazing. It's
now people may notice your accent, so where did you grow up?
So I'm originally from Bulgaria.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Bulgaria. Lived in Spain for 10 years because of my dad and him deciding to pursue a little bit of better life for us at the time. And then I moved here.
Good.
And I've always wanted to pursue movies. So probably, I don't know how many people know that, but when I moved here, I moved in as an exchange student. And I had 3 elective credits left to complete my bachelor's degree. And I took basically acting classes at OU.
Oh, wow.
Anything but, computer science, because that was my bachelor's degree. I was no, I want acting. I took all the acting classes that I could take. And at some point, I also made my way through the Actor Factory.
So did you get a chance to work on The Tulsa King? Did you?
That's a funny story. Almost.
Almost?
Almost. I almost worked on Tulsa King. I got the audition. They wanted me to audition for a prisoner. I got excited, but at the time, I was in the process of getting my green card, my permanent residency, and I was oh my God, I'm so close to get it, but I don't know when exactly I'm gonna have it. And I wanted to be straightforward with casting and production. I didn't want to kind of lie, show up, and all of that. So I just told them, hey, I'm in the process of getting my residency. I just don't know when it's gonna arrive, but I'm there, right? But as of right now, I'm still on my work visa.
Yeah. And
they're I'm sorry, we can't do that. Unfortunately, for legal reasons, we'll have to be able to pay you, file W-2s and all of that. Then you have to have permanent residency. So they decided to move with somebody else.
Yeah.
But I was considered for it. And the funny thing about it is that literally the next week, I got my green card in the mail. So if I had said, yes, no problem, I'm good, let's go, yes, I would have been in Tulsa King as a prisoner, and everything would have been still legal. But I didn't know. Right?
Oh, I don't want to make you jealous. That was my first background work was Tulsa King.
Really?
And I got to be shoulder to shoulder with Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
On 3 takes, and he's just standing next to me. It's like, got to be professional. Don't say hi. Don't shake his hand. Just do your job. So
How was that? How was that for you? Like the feeling of sitting, next to like an icon like him or of his, stature, and how was that?
it's challenging because when I started acting, background work was the first thing I started to do, and I wasn't a trained actor. I didn't go to school for it. So I was a fan. I was just like, hey, here I am. I'm on set, and oh, this is so cool. So you want to make that approach and say things, and of course the casting director and don't say anything, don't interrupt, be professional. And we had some people in the group who would yell out to him and ask for autographs.
Oh, really?
In our extras group.
Wow.
I'm going, oh wow, you may not be called again. So it was difficult, and as you get experience, I've been doing this now almost 4 years. You know what, your behavior and professionalism is supposed to be. But yeah, when you're first starting out, oh yeah, you get starstruck. It's like, so it was a fun experience.
I bet.
And what's funny about it is I was in 4, and all my scenes were like blurry. I had to prove to people that that's me back there because I recognized the woman in the dress. That's the only reason I know it's me, but. That's how I got started.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool.
But that's a cool opportunity for you, though, to get started out and to actually be cast or at least audition for a particular role.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's the beauty of this thing is when you finally get cast, you're no longer an extra, and you're there to do a job, and you know what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
kind of a fun thing.
My first extra work and experience in a big blockbuster production was with Twisters. It's like probably a lot of people
Sure.
that we know got to do that. But I guess I got my first starstruck moment or like surreal, a little bit of like, oh my God, the leads of the movie are like literally right next to me. And that was fascinating. It was fascinating.
As Twisters?
Yeah, for Twisters. Obviously, it wasn't, Sylvester Stallone, but, Glenn Powell and
Right.
everybody else that was on the cast, they were literally there, right, while we were shooting the theater scene, the indoors theater scene. And it was fascinating. It just solidified and made my fascination and love for movies, for production, like even more, because you're like on set, you literally see the whole stage, everything that is being built, created, by the whole production team. And it's just fascinating because so much labor, so much work goes into that. Like, oh my God, like everybody from every single department matters. And everybody has to be like in sync to be able to do that.
Right.
And movies is a collaborative, type of a business. Everybody has to collaborate and, work together as one to be able to achieve that. And it was just fascinating, looking like how they recreated it, how they created the movie theater, the whole set was built, from ground up. And then when the special effects come in and all that stuff that they do, the destruction, I was like, wow.
So what did you do for Twisters then?
I was just background.
Did you find yourself in the movie?
I was in the movie. Okay, so I was in the movie. Yes, you can see a little bit of my back as I'm, running up the stairs, up the alley to kind of like get out of the movie theater. I think they cut one of the shots at the very end because there was a shot where they were like, all right, now everybody kind of like the storm has passed. We're recovering, everybody's safe. Just you're raising up, kind of like in shock of the destruction and all of that. And there was a shot there. There was the camera on the crane, shooting towards the seating, the stadium seating. And I'm sure there was a shot there that when I kind of got up eventually from underneath the seats, it was on me, right?
Yeah.
As I was reacting and selling the destruction and, the fact that I survived. But never made it. Never made it to the final cut. I was hoping it will make it because that would be like, cool, hey, this is me there.
Yeah.
But part of me made it. Let's put it that way. I think that's kind of like a little bit the trade-off with extra work, right? You get there, you get to experience all the fun and the good stuff, but you don't know if you're going to make it.
No, but it's still a fun experience. I
agree.
I was in the subway scene, and my shoulder, you can see my shoulder. And you had to tell people, it's really, it's my shoulder. But no, that's a fun experience. So what was your first role where you were really cast in the film?
The first role, that will be Welcome to the Neighborhood. That will be Welcome to the Neighborhood.
That was a lead role. You were a lead.
It was, yeah, I would
Yeah,
say
main
it was
character.
like a, yeah, it was an ensemble, right? Everybody had their role, and you know, to me, everybody was equally important, right?
Sure.
But that was the first one, you know. Jeff LaForce and LaForce Productions, they did an amazing job
They
with
did.
that. But that was the very first one. I had an incredible experience. It was a lot of fun because the majority of the cast were people that, you know, we know,
Right.
that I knew, that I've kind of worked with. And to be able to do a project with, you know, people that you know and you're friends with, it's a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
It gave me a little bit of understanding maybe of what it looks like if you ever make it to, like, you know, the bigger stages with, you know, the bigger players in Hollywood, what, you know, working with people that you know might be like, right? And then an example that comes to mind is like the Avengers movies, right? Infinity War and the game. By the end, all the cast know each other, they know each other, they're friends, and they get to shoot this movie, work together for like, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6
Right.
months, and it's probably a blast, right? So I got to experience this on a smaller scale, but, you know, it was equally fun and a really, you know, good,
No,
good part.
Jeff is very gracious with the actors and the time and the scripts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I worked with him on Kind, and you know, when he sent me the script for that, playing the father of his son, he was, you know, talking about immigration and ICE. And so when I read it, you know, I called him and talked to him about it. I said, you know, this is a very sensitive issue, and especially for me, being Mexican American. And he said, hey, Ron, you know, any ideas, suggestions? So he allowed me to kind of massage the lines.
Okay.
So he was very gracious, and you know, I got to say the lines that he thought would work. So I love working with him. We've known each other for a long time.
Absolutely.
And he's, you know, hopefully, he said yes as a future guest, so I'm sure he has a lot to share. He's been very busy lately.
Yes.
So we talked about the Actor Factory. How did you learn about the Actor Factory?
It's a little bit blurry. I don't exactly remember because it was probably 2015. I think it was 2015. I came back to do my master's in computer science, and I think I researched acting schools in Norman, Oklahoma, and I think the Actor Factory popped up, and it might have been actually even 2014, but because I remember doing like Meals on Wheels. There was this thing that, you know, it was Meals on Wheels, and at the time, being an exchange student, you know, you can't probably like afford, you know, pay for the classes and all that. But it was like, oh, Meals on Wheels. Chris was doing that. It was like I could bring some food and, you know, have the opportunity to audition. That was my very first exposure to the Actor Factory.
Okay.
After that, when I came back in 2015, I, you know, started taking classes there. You know, it was more, it wasn't like as frequent because of school and
Sure.
my degree, but I started in 2015. That was kind of like when I fully started like going to the factory. I didn't do much again, not because only for school, but because I couldn't work at the time, right? Even if I got a role, I couldn't work because I didn't have my permanent residency. I was on a school visa and all that stuff. But yeah, 2014, 2015 is the first time when I kind of...
Hey, and the reason I'm bringing that up, this Actor Factory is such a central figure in a lot of actors' lives, and we all seem to get through there and get to know
Yes.
each other and take other classes and network and gain friends from there. So, you know, it's great being alumni from there. They should have a reunion.
Yeah, I
Bring
agree.
it- bring it
I
right
agree.
back.
I absolutely agree. A lot of people that I call my friends today, I've met them through the factory, right? A lot of, you know, cool people, and it's just being a blast. I'm happy that I discovered it, and I'm happy that I took classes there and I
Yeah.
started. And the fun thing was that years later, in 2021, 2022, that's when I kind of finally got my residency, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to start pursuing acting, you know, seriously. I'm going to go back to the factory and start taking classes. And Chris remembered me. I was like, he won't remember me. It was
Yeah.
like last time he saw me was like in 2015, right? Or something like that. It's been, lots of years. He won't remember. He was like, dude, I remember you. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, right? So that was a cool moment. And
I don't know if you remember, we were in the class together.
yes,
We
yes.
were.
And, Chris
Yeah.
is awesome. I just love him. He's good. Yeah.
He's good. So in terms of, you're talking about being on set and your first role working with Welcome to the Neighborhood, which she's got so many awards. I mean, it's still getting awards.
Still blows my mind of how many
Yeah.
awards,
Yeah.
we won and how many festivals we were at, and just the exposure that this project
Right.
got just blows my mind.
So other projects, any projects you'd like to talk about or things you worked on?
I worked, there was another one called Hidden Agendas.
Mm-hmm.
I got a role in that one. I don't know where exactly that is yet. I think it was like a pilot for a series, and they're trying to like shop it around and see
Sure.
who's going to pick it up and all that. But I haven't heard as of right now. I don't have any updates.
Mm-hmm.
That was one. Welcome to the Neighborhood was another one, and my 48-hour experience, that was actually fun. That was like another one that was good. For the 48-hour that we did back then, that was cool. These are the projects as of right now. I've had like a lot of cool auditions for bigger roles and bigger projects.
Do you work commercials at all? Have you done commercials?
I haven't done commercials yet. Personally, it's not that I'm avoiding them. I was a little bit more strategic with focusing on TV and movies,
Sure.
so that whenever I have to take off from work, I'm able to dedicate time for film and TV instead of for a commercial, right? That was kind of like a little bit more of a strategic approach.
And that is a challenge for actors who, they have a daytime career or a career that really generates their living, trying to fit acting into that as well. That you have so much vacation or sick leave to take time off.
Yes.
So how do how'd you work around that while you're working and auditioning and looking at dates and trying to get all that to fit in?
I basically save as much as I can from my leave, and I'm kind of like a little bit more picky for the projects, meaning that if it's a project that it's good, it's going to boost my resume, and it maybe even get me my SAG eligibility. Something that is like within that require a few days of shooting, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks max. I'll be like, okay, let's go after that, right? Roles that are like bigger, like a month, 2 months, those become challenging because you have to convince people at work. Be like, I need to take off
Right.
a month off work, and be like, wait, what? Right? So it's harder. So the roles always had to be, hey, I'm going to shoot for 3 days, so I'm taking 3 days time off, or a week or two, so I'm taking a vacation, a couple weeks. So those are basically the roles that I always kind of like eyed whenever.
And that's
a
nice to be
audition.
selective. Then you're not
Yeah,
battling
Yeah.
this thing. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Should I have the free time to audition for anything? I don't care. A month, 2 months, whatever the role requires. I'm all for it. So, yeah.
So have you traveled out of state at all? Have you any work in Atlanta or LA?
No, not yet. But I've auditioned for projects out of state. So I just haven't gotten anything so that I can travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another challenge. I get sent things from Atlanta. Dallas, Austin's not too bad. Austin's a little bit of a drive, but you start getting into LA and Atlanta, you have to really think about the economics.
True. That's another very
Yeah.
good point. Is that from economical standpoint, let's say there's a role, it shoots like in LA or in Atlanta. Sure, it's non-union. They pay you, I don't know, like $300 per day or
Right.
$500 per day or something like that, and the role is going to shoot for 3 days, right? So now with the $1,500 that you're going to end up making, potentially you have to factor in travel expenses, flights, hotel, whatever. At the end of the day, right? It's like, okay, is it economically worth it for me to do that. Right now, if you're free and you don't have anything else going on, like sure, why not? But when you have to factor in like full-time job and things like that, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Especially if the pay is like even lower than that, then you're
Right.
like, man, like it's
You want to do it to get the experience.
exactly correct.
And some you look at and say, okay, I may lose money on this, but it'd be worth it to go and
I
be
agree.
in that situation
I
and,
agree.
and network with the people there. So you talked about getting your SAG card. So the roles that you're looking at in terms of the movies, TVs, so you use the SAG as a goal for you then. You want to,
That's definitely a goal,
Yeah.
but if it's not a SAC project, I'll still do it.
Yeah.
It's just the experience and the love for the work, right? It doesn't have to be SAG. So obviously, if it's a SAG, that's a plus, right?
that is a plus.
So, but if it's a non-union project, still,
Mhm.
just experience, just for the sake of acting, for the love of acting, and just being on set with with cool people and getting to meet people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, grading this podcast, I just touched the surface of all the actors who are in Oklahoma. Because you look at Tulsa, you look at Oklahoma City, and the other rural areas of the state. There's so many involved in this
There
profession.
is. Yes.
And you meet them, you talk to them. What's nice about now going on set doing this podcast is that now I have something to talk about.
Mhm.
By the way, would you be
Mhm.
interested?
Mhm.
And so it helps break the ice when I'm on set and talk to other actors about
No, yeah,
what do they do.
absolutely.
So,
And Oklahoma is like, I still feel like we can have so much more production, in
Yes.
here and come in here, to boost the market, to boost the economy, to give people the opportunity because there's like a lot of talent here,
Mhm.
right? Yes, there's more going out and out of state, but bringing things here will allow actors to get exposure for talent, to get exposure, and with that, production just can win, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just can win because they're tapping into like another well of talent, right? They're not just limited, to the market of Atlanta or the market of LA and all that stuff.
right.
Right. Obviously, Hollywood is trying to like bring back and start shooting in LA more and bring productions, etc. But it's not an overnight thing, right?
Mhm.
And the more production comes here, it's just the better, right? It's gonna highlight more the state. It's gonna highlight more the actors here. It's gonna highlight the casting directors, the talent agencies, and all that stuff. So I just hope more more people kind of pick Oklahoma as their shooting location.
Sure. Have you thought about doing, I don't know if you do any writing or script writing or filmmaking,
Yes.
directing? Is that
Yes.
in
So
your future?
I like, Stallone is one of my favorites, not, because I grew up with, his movies, but just because of his philosophy and how he made it, right? Everybody knows that he created his own path.
Sure.
That's very inspirational, right? He always keeps saying, just keep punching. And in this business, this is exactly what you need to do. You just need to keep punching. Because every actor out there, when you go and ask them, like, hey, should I pursue this? They'll say no. They say, like, 90% of the time you're
Yeah.
unemployed, right? Be prepared for, like, a lot of rejection. But if it's something you really like and you would really love to pursue, you have to just keep going, keep punching, and not just keep going, but when you keep punching and keep going, give as much as you can from, of yourself, put a, maximum effort as much as possible, to achieve that, whatever kind of like it takes a little bit. But, like Stallone did it himself. He was like, well, nobody's going to cast me, while I'm auditioning. Nobody's like, seeing my potential and my talent. I'm going to create my own story, my own project, and I'm going to, tell it and do it. How inspirational is that for somebody of his caliber and the way, he was back then starting to write Rocky, to say no to all the offers that he was getting from studios, and he's like, no, no, and no. I'm going to be the one who's
Right.
going to make it. I'm going to star in it. And that's it. And he stuck to that vision, to that idea of what he wanted to do and achieve with the script. And boom, right out of the gate, Oscar nomination, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, on a much smaller scale, that's what I liked about the Actor Factory is that, some of the discussions from the instructors were, if you're not getting work right away, create your own content.
Yes.
And that's when the 48 hour came up. That's why I decided to join the 48 hour, thinking, wow, I could write, create, direct, create the story that I want to create.
Absolutely.
Now, again, it's a much smaller scale, but it gives you that opportunity. And then you want to do it again and get better and get better. So, yeah, I enjoy that aspect. And,
No, I agree. And you asked me like if I've thought about writing. Yes, I've thought about writing. I have ideas. It's a matter of me penning down these ideas, putting them down, writing them, evolving them into a working script, and then finding the right people to start, shooting, right?
Right.
Can you shoot things yourself with a limited crew? Yes.
It's
But
challenging.
it's challenging, right? It's better, to have people involved to help you out in this. It's a little bit harder to be jack of all trades, right? To know lighting, to know sound, to know, camera, all that stuff, or just be the one directing and let other people handle that, right? I would love personally. I want to know each and every department how kind of it works, and I want to understand each and every department better, right? I want to know all the stuff about lighting, right? How the lighting department works, right? How as a talent I can be of service to the lighting department, to the sound department, right? To the effects department. As a creator, as a potentially future director, how I can be thinking when I'm thinking of directing things and how the movie's going, with sound and lighting and effects in mind. I think these are important things.
How large was the crew you worked on the 48? Do they have a good-sized crew, or?
If I remember correctly, I think over 10 people,
Wow.
or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated because when you enter and you go to the premiere, start watching all the movies, and they get to the credits, and you're reading the credits, and it's like director, assistant director, cinematography, lighting, catering, hair, makeup. I'm going, wow, how are they doing that in a 48? Because my crew is probably less than 5. They do everything.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated, and as you said, being on set, learning the different aspects, what goes into a film. Now you know why they're so expensive, especially the
Absolutely.
large films. There's so many people involved.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And another thing that every time I go to the movies, when the credits roll, and it just blows my mind the amount of people involved into that production. Now, I know there are critics out there. Their job is to critique a movie so that it can make it easier for moviegoers to decide if it's worth their time, their money. The way I see it is that every movie, I feel like you can say, oh, this movie was bad. No, this movie was someone's vision. They thought, that, okay, this is the story I want to tell. This is, how they decided to tell the story. And, movies are, experiential experiences.
Sure.
So, and they're subjective, right? So if a movie didn't work for you for whatever reason, you didn't connect with it, don't say, oh, that movie was trash. No, the movie wasn't trash. It just didn't work for you. It's like, hey, yeah, I didn't connect with it that well. It didn't work for me. But hey, kudos to the director, to the production, to the whole team, everybody involved in that, because they had a vision, and they decided to make that vision a reality. They put the work, and it's not an easy thing to do. Right?
It's not, and it belongs to them.
Exactly.
When I did my first film, I looked at it going, wow, this is like a 7th grade class, producing their first film, and I don't mean as a criticism, because they're probably better than I am, But as friends, not actor friends, but family and friends who are still saying, "What are you doing? Why are you getting into this acting? You know, especially at my age." But when you create, you stand back and look and say, "Yeah, I saw errors, I saw things, but you know what? That's my film.
Exactly.
I did that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that's how you start. And you, in this craft, even the acting side, writing side, you want to be better.
Yeah, because
You're your biggest critic. Right?
absolutely, I agree. You're your biggest critic.
Yeah.
It's you know, you against you, right? Constantly, you know, trying to like be better than the version from yesterday, right?
Yeah.